Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7. Sergey Dragunov. Sergey Dragunov. Get ready for the next battle.
Alright, first I'm gonna check if you guys are able to see stuff. Let's see. Oh, alright. Yeah, now you guys should be able to see some stuff. Alright, today we're gonna cover Dragunov to the best of my abilities. As usual, we're gonna go through the move list together, and I'm gonna explain the different moves and how to use them, when to use them, and what options in general you have available. Alright, so first we got 113. 1-1 is our basic 10 frame punish as well for getting the most frames. Doesn't do too much damage, but damage isn't the main goal here, it's just to collect some frames. If the second connects on counter hit, the third is guaranteed as well. The last hit is also heavily delayable, so it's great at the wall. Also safe on block, -9. Then we've got 1-2-1. 1-2-1 is a kind of risky countered string we have available. If the first connects, every hit after the first on counter hit is guaranteed as well. If it's not a counter hit, the last hit can be blocked and is -14, so some characters of the cast will be able to launch you for trying to go for that string, you know. 1-3-2. So 1-3-2 is basically another option we have. Like this, the safer option would be 1-3-1. Right? Which leaves us at -3. Also, if the second hit connects, last is guaranteed as well. So, for opponents who know that 1-3-1 is a string that completely relies on highs, we got 1-3-2 to check them, basically, right? If the last results in a counter hit, we get a guaranteed shoulder or a guaranteed quarter circle 4-2, though the quarter circle 4-2 is a bit tricky to time. Looks very cool though, if you can pull it off. Yeah, I was too slow there. And if the second connects, uncountered, the third hit is guaranteed, but you no longer will get the knockdown. There we go. Just took me a while. Alright. Then we got 2-1-3. So 2-1-3 is basically safe because it ends on a high, we're -9, and it pushes our opponent back quite a bit. Because of a pushback, though after -9 you would not usually move around, we can try going for movement. The pushback is giving us the option to do so. Also, as with the other strings, if the second connects and counted, if I can get the distance right, the third hit becomes guaranteed as well. Be careful though, this string is highs only, so your opponent can duck and while standing launch you very, very easily. Then we've got 2-1-4, which basically is no mix-up at all in that situation, because you beat both strings by ducking and while standing punishing. -12 on block, +3 on hit, so you can continue with your offense. I'm just trying to check something. And like with the other strings as well, if a second connects and counted, the third becomes guaranteed as well. Though it's quite unusual that a mid-low variant becomes guaranteed. But here we are, I guess. Then we've got 3-1-2 and 3-1 into sneak. So 3-1-2 is our string we're mainly going to use for sometimes wall carry, most of the time for damage, and sometimes as well if our opponent tries to interrupt the sneak transition. So if we hold down forward after, we go into sneak. From sneak we get different options, we're gonna cover that. Also, if you time it right, as soon as you see Dragunov going for the dash, if you step up, I failed there, you can continue combos you normally would not be able to continue. Also, you could use that to go back into neutral to mix your opponent more. Because if your opponent is familiar with all the different sneak options you have, he might not feel as intimidated as when he knows that you're able to do the cancel properly. So, against people who try to interrupt us constantly, we got 3-1-2. Very good string at the wall. If I remember correctly, it's only -12, yeah, as well on block. So great stuff. 3-1-4, we are never gonna use that much in neutral, I would say. It's similar to 2-1-3. Can be ducked and while standing launched, so be careful. Because of a pushback, however, we could go for sway back, shenanigans, or movement. Yeah. Also, that string we mainly use for wall carry and getting a high wall split. 4-1. So 4-1 is our 12 frame punish. Mainly you're going to use that to punish hop kick attempts from your opponent. Also, after another string, back 4-1-2, if the last one connects and counted, we're getting +12 as frame advantage, right? So we could either go 4-1-1, or if we want to go for some more frames, we go for 4-1. Because if you remember, 4-1 is exactly 12 frames. It's safe on block as well, as you can see. It's a high string though, so people might duck it and punish you for it. We got something against that as well, however, in 4-3. With 4-3, if the first connects and counted, second becomes guaranteed as well. And as you can see, you get a guaranteed stomp. Maybe one more thing concerning 4-1. If 4-1 gets blocked, it leaves you at -6, so it's a great opportunity going for parries against opponents who like to press buttons immediately after they've blocked something. The thing with 4-3, however, is it's -12, so you're gonna eat a small punish for that. Then we've got 4-4. So 4-4 is interesting but a bit tricky to use as well. You're mainly going to use it as a screw for combos, right? You could use it in neutral as well to start an offense. As you can see, it leaves you in crouch, so from there you could go for a tackle, while standing 1-2, while standing 4, stuff like that, right? Leaves you at +3, so some stuff becomes uninterruptible. However, if your opponent knows that string, he might duck the second hit and launch you for it, or just jab you right out of the air to float you for a small combo. You see? The second move is very slow to come out as well, so most people will be able to react to it. For the kind of opponents who like to press too early, however, if a second connects and counter it, it becomes an immediate screw you can combo from. And that's a good amount of damage from an immediate screw. So the move has its strengths and its weaknesses. You can use it from time to time, but don't overdo it. Otherwise you're gonna eat damage, and we don't want that happening. Yeah, then we've got his Power Crush. It's one of the worst ones in the game. -14 on block. It's quite slow to come out. Most of the time, if I take trades with that, I lose. Would not recommend using this one in neutral. Perhaps at the wall, after certain moves where you're not too minus, like after small pokes and stuff like that. Otherwise, on an open field, don't go for that. It's too risky. Then we've got Iron Flare. At first, this move might look pretty useless, and you could argue that it kinda is. It's very niche. The thing is, as you can see, he kind of throws himself off axis mid-air. So even if your opponent tried to jab you out of there, you might be able to evade the high. It's not guaranteed, but it's possible. I've seen it happen. Also, if it connects, as soon as you're about to touch the ground, if you press 1, you're gonna tech roll, and can even get a combo of that move. So make of that as you wish, I guess. 4-2-4. Incredibly good string. The second hit is highly delayable, and most people will fall for the second hit. You get a counter-hit combo from there as well. Just gotta... It got quite the range as well, so it's kind of difficult for me to actually get the distance right to demonstrate. Let me set this up a bit differently. Yeah, no, I need to do it ranged. I won't be able to get it otherwise. God damn it. Yeah, if the first one connects and countered, the second becomes guaranteed as well, even if it's highly delayed. God damn. Alright, let me do it a bit differently. I don't know if it will work the way I imagined it. Oh, alright, that works. The damage shown here isn't reliable though, because the first connects and counted and the second connects and counted. So the damage right now is a bit overkill. Pay no mind to it. You can get a pickup from there. Yeah, it's the basic pickup with down 2 while standing 4, and then you can screw however you want. Most of the time I go for the sneak cancel combos myself. So, with that string it leaves you at -7, so that gives you an opportunity to parry right after as well. 4-3 into sneak. This is your main tool for sneak cancel combos, which you can use for immense amount of wall carry. So, similar to 3-1 into sneak, as soon as we see Dragunov going for that ducking animation, we tap up. And then immediately go for a jab to keep our opponent airborne. It takes some practice to get the timing down, but once you get it, it's quite easy. Also, with sneak, as long as you don't press immediately, you will reliably crush highs. Was there something else? Ah, right. Then we've got two other options. We have for opponents who try to intercept our sneak attempts with mids, hop kicks, etc. Right? So we've got a 4-3-2. It's a safe string on block, but it ends on a high, so it can be ducked and while standing launched. If just the second hit connects, we get a screw combo, as you can see, for some good damage as well. And if we're a bit too hesitant to go for that, we've got forward 3-3. It's -12, however, should the first connect uncountered, the second becomes guaranteed as well. And even if the first doesn't connect, if we're close enough towards our opponent, we can still get the animation if the second hit is accounted. Yeah, also the grab that happens with the roll, right, is the same as the one from down forward 3. Leaves out oh, damn it, can't speak. It leaves us at +1, right, and gives us some distance. So if you got the timing down, you could go for an instant Y running 2. And if they try to do any get up kick or stuff like that, you're gonna get the Y running 2 countered and can combo from there. Forward 4-4-3 we are mainly gonna use for combos, otherwise it's a high string, so it's very risky to use. Should your opponent block the complete string, you can go for parries, you can attempt sidesteps, but if your opponent were to use any kind of jabs or really fast moves, they would most likely catch you. If you just go for the first two, however, it leaves you at -11, as you can see, but even if they tried to punish you for -11, they would not be in range. The only exception might be Fakumram, because he got quite the range. Mardak perhaps as well. At the wall, it will get punished. On the open field, you can get away scot-free. You wait for them to whiff and then go for punish. Or you could go for backsway shenanigans or movement. Then we've got a forward 4, down 4. It leaves us at +3. The second is quite visible, so it will get low parried a lot if you're not careful enough. If you mix it in with your usual pressure, however, it might catch your opponent off guard. Also, I remember this being, I believe it was also -12 or -13. Let's check real quick. -12, alright. So it won't get launched. The worst that could happen is that you eat a shoulder, while standing shoulder from Dragunov. Yeah. Or while standing 4. While standing 4 would be the one you eat the most, I think, in that situation. Scabbard. So this is your long range with punish. This move is especially good against Paul, because you can punish Paul's Death Fist with this without any issues. Let me demonstrate real quick. Where's he? There he is. You might ask yourself if that move on its own might be a good option against Heihachi's 4-4-2 as well. Against Heihachi's 4-4-2, that sadly doesn't work. You don't have enough frames. Alright, so the damage you get from that is quite okay as well. There are some instances where you won't get the punish, that's if the Death Fist connects at tip range. Otherwise, you will be able to quite reliably punish this. Alright, let's open the list again. Also, save and block. Down forward 1-4. So I would recommend to never do the full string, except in situations where you know that your opponent uses a down 4 and then goes for while standing stuff, though he doesn't have the frames for it, right? Otherwise, I would just use down forward 1 as a poking tool. It's only -2 on block, so feel free to move around right after. Should it connect and you got the execution down, which I don't have at the moment, you can go for an instant while running 2. Uncounted, the full string becomes guaranteed as well. And though it's one of those classic down forward 1-4 inputs, it doesn't screw, which is a bit weird, because usually characters who have that sort of string, it would be a screw tool as well, but it isn't. Yeah, down forward 2 is your generic mid-launch. It's -12 on block, and what's very good is that it works against opponents who crouch a lot as well. So basically, usually, if we're talking about down forward 2s, the safer they are, or no, let's say it differently. So there are down forward 2s that won't properly launch crouching opponents. They make them lift off the ground a bit, but you won't get a proper launch basically. Those kind of down forward 2s frame-wise are usually very, very safe, because you can only launch people that are standing, tried to step or walked into you, right? So this down forward 2 is not as safe as the ones I've mentioned before, but to kind of equal that out, you can launch people that are uncrouch with it, instead of getting that weird lift off. So, down forward 3. Down forward 3 on hit connects into that command grab. It doesn't need to be counted, the hit just needs to connect. It's safe on block, it's -6, so you could parry right after. Yeah, and after certain strings or moves, or a successful punish, for example, where you know you're very plus, you could go for that. A good example would be, let's see, nah, that would be too obvious. I remember there being a move that gave me +8, but it might actually be back to 1? No, I can't remember. We're gonna find it eventually, however. So, when you know you're very plus, or you think your opponent is gonna hop kick or stuff like that after a successful 1-1 punish, you can go for that for some guaranteed safe damage if your opponent tried to interrupt you with a move that's slower than a jab, or if you're trying to set up a parry. So, Down forward 3 plus 4. I've got very mixed feelings about this move. It has some deceptive range, as you can see. Gives you huge amount of plus frames as well. So you can buffer instant while running 2 if you've got the execution for it. You could set up some counters or continue with pressure as usual. It's safe on block as well, leaves you at -7, so it's a parry opportunity right there. It's a screw as well, which is a bit weird cause I've never seen anyone use that as a screw. You can use it to break people through walls as well, though I've not seen any Dragunov player do so. Most of them just do the while standing shoulder. Yeah, it's homing, so it's a good check. Down 1. So, I had down 1 in mind, so that gives me +8, so down forward 3 becomes uninterruptible, should the down 1 connect. Alright, so if we get this on counter hit, we get a guaranteed stomp attempt. The stomp itself is not guaranteed as far as I know, only the attempt is guaranteed. What would be guaranteed, however, is a down forward 2. Down 2. Just down 2. Also, on block leaves you at +1 and forces your opponent into crouch. So from there you could either continue with the jab string if your opponent tries to immediately retaliate. You can try to mid-check them if you think they're gonna try and go for full crouch mix-up themselves. Or you can go for a sidestep, make them whiff and punish accordingly. Alright, the notorious down 2. Alright, so the notorious down 2, it has been nerfed, it has been buffed, and now it's in a weird situation. So if this gets blocked and you play against Kazuya, Eddie, Josie and the like, you're gonna get launched cause it's -13. If you manage to land this on a counter hit, it will give you huge amounts of plus frames. So you could instant crouch cancel back into neutral to then go for more pressure if you're quick enough. Or you could go for the usual while standing stuff, or you could go... the tackle would be too risky, I think. Let's keep it safe with while standing stuff. If we manage to hit our opponent with it, it's not just us that goes into crouch, but our opponent as well. And we are in a neutral situation. No one is at an advantage or disadvantage. And from here on out, some sort of mind game basically begins. So, if our opponent knows about Dragunov, and they think we are gonna go for while standing 4 immediately, they could go for while standing 4 immediately as well, and we would trade. If we know that they know, we're just gonna do the while standing 2, hold back, make them lose their turn because they used their while standing 4 and finished their turn because of that decision, and then can pressure, right? Or we could try to use sidestep movement. Not to the side where we crouch, but to the side where we go up, right? So it would be... I think it's the left from both... Ah, no. It's the left on the left and the right on the right. I think. Yes. So you just step up. You can use the pigeon roll to gain even more evasiveness, but more to that later down the line. So this string is especially powerful at floor break stages. Later I'm gonna show why. Uncountered, full string becomes guaranteed. If we just use down 3, we remain standing at -3 and can use that to sidestep right after, to harass our opponent a bit. We could go for down 3, sidestep, do another down 3, and if we're feeling really cheeky, do the full string at some point. Down 4, 1, 3. So this string you will never actually use in your neutral game at all. If you do the full string, it's launch, you're gonna eat damage, right? If you just do the first two, it's minus 11, I think. Yeah. But the second hit is a high. The last hit is a high as well, so your opponent can just wait and while standing launch you, right? Normally you would use that string after up forward 4. It's some guaranteed free damage. If the wall is close, even better, because now you might get a wall combo as well, perhaps even a floor break combo, if you're close, right? So, down 4-4. Down 4-4 is okay. I personally don't use it. It got quite pushback. There are some characters with 14 frame punishers that could prove dangerous. Lars does not have the range to punish that, I think. Alisa and Xiaoyu do, however. So be on guard against those. If the first hit connects and countered, it becomes guaranteed. It's a low-high string, so your opponent might just stay down and while standing launch you for that. So use that one with care. Also you can use that for wall carry to get a high wall splat if you feel cheeky. Down back 2-1-2. One moment. Excuse me for a second. We'll be right back. Alright. Let's see. Death's Door. Right. So, should the second hit connect, the third becomes guaranteed as well. It's a pure counter hit string, and we get a pickup from here as well. You need to be pretty close to your opponent to get the pickup, however. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, basically only the second and the third hit are the interesting ones for us. The third hit is highly delayable, right? Against opponents that lack patience, we're gonna do the string as fast as possible. Against people that have a bit more patience, we're trying to delay the string as much as possible, or we don't finish it at all, because we're only minus 10 if we just do the first two. And if our opponent recognizes that string, he's gonna hesitate for a bit, because he fears the mid, and he will let his punish opportunity slip by, basically. Should this get blocked, however, we're at minus 14 and there are characters that can launch us for that, so be careful there. Down back 3. So Down back 3 on counter gives us that cool looking animation. Leaves us at +1, we gain some distance. Perfect opportunity to go for while running 2. However, most people are quite familiar with Dragunov and are just gonna stay on the ground, because if you stay on the ground like that, most of the time the while running 2 will just whiff, right? And now you've switched sides. If you had your opponent at the wall, now you're yourself at the wall, and that's a situation you don't want to find yourself in, right? There we go. Yeah, it's a combo starter as well. It is, how's it called? A snake edge, however, and one of the slower ones in the game. So I would never go for the down back 3 on its own. It's very launch punishable. What I go for instead, however, is the feint into the grab. People who have kind of trouble with the reflexes, so to speak, or are a bit too comfortable with waiting and crouch, right? That's your counter against those guys. However, this only helps you against people who stay in crouch and don't got the timing down. If someone got the timing down for that move, right, they could just stay in crouch, immediately go for while standing, launch, they would interrupt you, because that grab only works against people who are in crouch, right? There are some people online who are gonna crouch to see if the low is coming, and if they see that the low isn't coming after a specific amount of time, they're just gonna hop kick the shit out of you. So it's more of a gimmick than an actual tool, so to speak, but a very fun one if you pressured your opponent enough that he won't be able to react properly anymore. Back 1-2. So after those combos, like down back 3, where we get the pickup with down 2 and while standing 4, the usual screw would be back 1-2. It's a mid-mid string, it's -13 however. It has some high evasiveness to it, but I wouldn't rely on it too much. It's -10 if it's just the first hit, so that's a bit safer, but usually I would suggest going for the full thing. Gives you a ballerina stun as well, and the, not stun, spin. So if we make our opponent spin like that, we're at least +10 or more, which gives us the opportunity to set up another while running 2. If just the second connects uncountered, it's combo time. Does some good damage as well. I think it was around 60 damage or so. Yeah, 64 damage. It's quite good. Back to 1-3. So basically it's an extension of the down back 3, right? So we've got back to 1 and then the 3. This string is highly recognizable, so most people will block that. However, as with the down back 3, if we press 1+2 after we pressed 3, we're gonna get that feint, right? Which is nice. It, though it has the same problematics as the down back 3, but people who are familiar with Dragunov know how to defend against that. If we just do back to 1, it's very safe on block, -5. With -5 we can go for parry setups, we can try to go for sidestep movement, but most likely will get clipped by very fast moves. If we just use back 2, it's gonna force ourselves in crouch. It leaves us at only -3 as well, so we could step up to evade our opponent's retaliation. Was there something else? Ah, right, perhaps as little setup. What I like to do, if you do back 2 and you think your opponent is gonna wait it out cause he is like, I need to duck the second hit or stuff like that, or I want to see what string he's going for, then you can go for while standing 1-2. While standing 1-2 is quite safe. The second hit of while standing 1-2 is so high, it can be ducked and while standing launched, so be careful there. However, should they press and the second connects, similar to back 1-2, even the animation looks quite similar, so you can confuse people with that quite a bit. You get a combo. If you know that your opponent is gonna duck the high, you could go for while standing 1-3 instead if you're near the wall to get a wall bounce combo. Or if you want to play it very safe, you go for while standing 4, and depending on the distance to your opponent, you could try going for movement, or you go for a parry, or you just wait out what your opponent's gonna do. Back 3. So back 3 is one of the faster homing moves in the game. It's basically your 14 frame punish as well. As you can see, it has quite the range. Like range 1, range 2, and the start of range 3. Back 3 is your man. It's homing, it's a screw, and most of the time it's your tool of choice against people that rely on pushback moves. Like down for 4, for example. Back 3 would be your best option there for reliable punish. Alright, then we've got back 4-2-1. I absolutely love that string, because there are several things concerning that. So, if we connect the first hit uncountered, the full string becomes guaranteed, leaves us at plus, so we can keep the pressure up. It's 15 frames in startup, right? If we just do back 4, it leaves us at -4, so we can go for movement or sway back options to annoy our opponent. Yeah, if we do back 4-2 and our opponent blocked, or at least didn't get hit by the counter hit, right, and tries to immediately retaliate, we got a parry setup going for us. If we think, alright, they always try to interrupt after the second, right, or they're trying to utilize elbows, headbutts, joints in general, you can't parry, right, then you go for the full thing. Because if the last hit connects and countered, gotta get the distance right, it leaves us at +12 and we get a guaranteed 1-1 or a guaranteed 4-1, 4 more frames, right? Yeah. Also, we've got another version where instead of the high, we get the tackle, where we've got 3 options. 1, 2, and 1+2. 1+2 gives you the better Oki, and you can keep the pressure up with back 1+2 if they try to immediately get up. 1+2 is the option that gets broken the most, however. So most of the time I would recommend going for 2. or 1. And if they got used to that, then you can go back to 1+2 again. People who stay on the ground get the stomp. Or if you want to play it a bit safer, down 2. There's more to the takedown though. If you press 1+2 again, you're gonna pigeonroll up to the side. If you're pressing 3+4, you're gonna move down. So depending on the character you're facing against, you can decide, oof, my English. You can decide to roll towards the weak side. And if they use a pretty linear move, or even an electric, because as long as you do the roll, you count as in crouch, you basically move to the back and more often than not, get the opportunity to get a back grab off. Strong stuff. Then we've got back for 3. This is our main screw option when we got a float combo and didn't expect it, and we need a quick screw. Then we go for this. It's safe on block. The second is a high, so it can be while standing launched. Be careful there. Yeah, other than that, there's not much to say. At the wall, it's quite good as well, to get a wall splat. It comes out quite fast. First at 15 frames, the second at 17, 18, depending on distance. So, back 1+2. On hit gives you guaranteed stomp. On block, +6. So you can keep the pressure up with back 4-1, for example. Or could go for 1-3-1 and then go for sidestep movement. Or if you really got the execution down, go for instant while running 2. That would probably be your best option, but is also the one that's the hardest to pull off. This move doesn't have too much range. He takes a step forward to then deliver the blow, but if your opponent backdashes just once, your opponent will be out of range, so be wary of that. Also, this string, if you try to continue the pressure, it puts your opponent's mind on high alert, basically. Because now they are thinking that either down 2 has to come, or that we're gonna continue with pressure strings. So if we are going for strings that include a lot of highs, we need to be careful, because most certainly they will be ducked by good opponents. So while this move is quite good, it's a bit tricky to use, a bit dangerous to use. Alright, so back 3+4. I keep forgetting that move, though it's quite good. Leaves you at -2, so you could go for movement, to the side at least. It leaves you quite close to the opponent, so backdashing is out of the question here. Sidestep movement is the better option. Also, this move has like a built-in sabaki. As you can see, after the 1 input, Paul is going for down forward 1, and we basically hit him off balance, and then get to follow up with down 4-1-3. Let's check. So I know that it works against high and mid punches. Can't remember if it worked against kicks, so we're gonna test that real quick. Yeah, no. So it's only against punches. But that's another option we have. It got some good tracking as well, if I remember correctly. Back 3+2 is our unblockable. It's one of the slower ones in the game. Yeah. I don't recommend using that. Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike has a built-in sidestep, as you can see. If you sidestep up and then go for that, you will have quite the evasiveness. Should this connect and counter hit, you get the opportunity to get a combo. Back to 1, I do that the end for wall carry to get a high wall split, cause 3-1-4 the full string won't be able to connect. Usually as the ender you would just do 3-1 into sneak and then 1+2 to get the shoulder. Eye blast. So this is basically your long range with punish. If you think they're out of down for 2 range, you go for the eye blast instead. You get a quarter circle for 2 or a shoulder if you time it correctly. Also, it's completely safe. Leaves you at -9 though, and quite close to the opponent. So no movement for us, no parries for us. We just keep at it defensively. Gotta keep the defense up there. So this is our safe orbital, so to speak. We can get floated out of it, and it can be quite steppable. But if we expect our opponent to use a low, we can go for this move. And after that we could go for a parry setup as well. Yeah. Up forward 4, completely safe move. Gives us free damage, we already talked about that a bit. Scorpion Scissors. So this one is an unbreakable grab. I'm gonna set my opponent to breaking every grab, right? Just to show it, right? This one's unbreakable. The only way to kinda avoid that is through crouch, cause it counts as a high. Good to close out rounds, or to annoy our opponent at the wall a bit if they get a bit too comfortable with blocking. Forward 4-2 would be another long range 15 frame punish. So we've got up forward 1, forward 4-2, and forward 1+2. Forward 1+2 is a bit slower, but we get a high damaging combo. Is however a bit riskier. Forward 4-2 is -12. We're gonna eat a small punish for that, but it's a guarantee. It's a wall split if we are close to the wall, and on counter hit we get a free follow-up with a shoulder or quarter circle 4-2, which I'm not able to hit today for some reason. Then we've got a feint as well. If we go for 1+2 before the 2 can connect, we get the grab. This grab is broken with 1+2, it's quite obvious. Also I forgot to mention, but the other feints, they're broken with 1+2 as well. Most people are ready for that, except if you manage to catch them off guard. Forward 4-3 is your long range homing move. Gives you +5 on block and can set you up for wire running 2. Can make you very predictable, however, as well. You can use that to how's it called? To break walls or balcony break, to wall break or balcony break, if you already used a screw. If you have not used a screw and manage to get your opponent to the wall, don't go for that move, go for shoulder instead. Because if you use a screw move at the wall and you haven't put your opponent into the screw before, you won't get the screw, cause hitting your opponent with a screw move through the wall already counts as the screw being used. I'm gonna explain that later down the line a bit more. Fort 4. This we can use to get close towards our opponent. It's -1. We can go for while standing 4, and if they don't jab, or yeah, if they don't jab, we most of the time will get away with it, except if they have a 12 frame hit that can catch us as well. If we know that we're immediately going for a jab, we can go for an instant parry as well. Also, on counter hit, we get a combo. Yeah, I fucked up the easiest part of the combo, whatever. Alright, quarter circle forward 1. I absolutely love that move. It's another 15 frame launch. I would not use that for punishment. You can, however, try using it like an electric to catch sidestepping opponents. Only though, if you have input a forward input before you go for that. Because with the forward input, you realign with your opponent. So you basically catch up to them. The combo from this is also very high damage and looks absolutely stylish. If you don't drop it, that is. Damn, I've got no execution today. With Rage Drive, after the cancel into jab, you could go for an instant while running 1+2. It's tricky to do, but it's possible. Oh my god, I can't seem to land stuff today. There we go. Yeah. Usually you would do the full thing. But I don't have execution today. I don't know. Alright, quarter circle forward 2. This one's -14 on block, so you can get launched by some. If this connects, however, it's a proper launch. And probably one of my favorite launchers in the game. Also, it's an elbow, so it won't get parried by most. Except if you play against Leroy or Jin or stuff like that, right? So, quarter circle forward 3. If we're feeling risky and we know that our opponent has grown accustomed to us using while running 2, we can mix it up with a slide. Even on hit though, we're minus, so we can use that opportunity to set up a parry. Going for movement or anything else is not an option here, however. On counter hit, if we're close to our opponent, we get that animation and push our opponent back from us, which sets up another opportunity to go for an instant while running 2 if we think they're going for spring kick or get up kick and stuff like that. Something special about that, if you manage to hit your opponent on counter hit from range with that. I'm moving too far. Oh my god. It becomes a proper countered launch. The distance is a bit finicky, however. And it's launch punishable on block, so don't overdo it with the slide, alright? Then we've got quarter circle forward 4, and from there we've got an extension. So if we go for 1, 3, 4, 2. Our opponent can break that with 1. If we go for 2, 4, 3, 1, our opponent can break that with 2. The animation is the same, however. And it's another opportunity to set up a Y running 2. Quarter circle back 2. So this one's a bit safer. Oh no, never mind, I'm talking shit. So this one's a launch punish, should it be blocked. But because of a weird animation, most opponents won't properly punish that one. It's a sway back move, so after moves where you're not 2-, you can use that to evade your opponent's mid pokes if they lack range, or most of the time highs, and get a combo here going as well. Yeah. Y running 2. So Y running 2 is Dragunov's key move basically, together with down 2. On block it's +7. The frames can vary depending on the distance we've hit our opponent with that. If it connects and counter hit, there are 2 combos I'm mainly going for. Against manly characters. Against male characters or characters with male hitboxes, I'm going for this one. Against female characters, this combo doesn't work, sadly. So for female characters, we need to go for an instant while standing 4 instead. If we're going for style, that is, right? So the way I go for the I really can't talk for shit today. The instant while standing 4. After the counter connects, forward, down forward, and then 4. Then you can get the pickup. If you don't have execution for that, or you have problems trying to go for that, you can just go for the usual down 2 while standing 4 pickup as well. But then you won't be able to go for the sneak cancel combos, and would have to screw immediately with back 1-2. Alright. Then we've got Y running 4. So, Y running 2 has become highly steppable. There was a time when it was incredibly strong, you were not able to step it at all. It was just a godlike move. It put Dragunov into S tier, Y running 2, right? They reduced the tracking of it by a lot, however. So if you get too predictable with your Y running 2s, your opponent is gonna step that to the side and launch you for it. So to kind of counter that, we've got Y running 4. Y running 4 got a bit more tracking than Y running 2. It can still be stepped, but it's a bit better in terms of tracking. Also, it's completely safe on block and leaves us at -7, so another parry opportunity. Yeah, then we got the sweep. So if we, for example, manage to hit our opponent with forward 3 and gain some distance, we could go for that slide. On hit, we get that animation. It's the same one as our quarter circle forward 3, with the same properties as well, so we could set up a Y running 2. If this gets blocked, however, we're gonna eat a launch, so it's risky to use. While standing 1-2 we already talked about. While standing 1-3 we kinda talked about a bit. It's launch, however. if you just do while standing 3, this one's safe. While standing 1-3, you're mainly gonna use as a punish. If you're not sure if you're going to, or let's phrase this differently. If you're at the wall and you're not sure if you're gonna catch your opponent for the wall bounce, but you want to stay safe, then you go for while standing 3. If you manage to block a low and you want to punish your opponent for as much damage as you can, you go for while standing 1-3. While standing 2 is your basic while standing launch, so to speak. While standing 1+2 is your 12 frame, 13 frame punish. If you misjudge the situation, however, and this gets blocked, you can be launch punished by some characters. So be very, very careful there. While standing 2-3. While standing 2-3 gives us +5 on block. Not on block, on hit. And on block it's -9. But for some reason, you might be able to put in a parry in between, though you don't really have the range. Probably because of the pushback that move has at tip range. If you're very close and you do that, you won't be able to go for the parry there. Also, another thing that's special, if the second connect's encountered, you get a similar animation as with down forward 3 or forward 3-3. Yeah. This string is for opponents who love to interrupt us or try to duck the second hit of that string, right? So, if we think that we're, or let's phrase it differently. So, there's this string, right? And if our opponent is familiar with that one and tries to interrupt us, we're gonna go for that one instead. Because if the second hit connects encountered, or just the third connects on its own, we get that hard knockdown, as you can see. I haven't found any option yet to actually convert this into a combo. So if someone knows, please enlighten me. I myself haven't found yet anything except the stomp as a guaranteed follow-up. Everything else just seems to be too slow. Though this string is -10 on block, however, because of pushback, it's basically safe. The only weakness would be that it ends on a high, and if your opponent knows that it ends on a high, he could be staying in crouch and trying to while standing launch you. So, similar to the tackle itself from down back 1+2 or back 4-2 1+2, this tackle as well can be cancelled. Damn it. Oh my god. There we go. And depending on if you go for 1+2 again or 3+4, you are either gonna roll up or down. Yeah, that's if you want to go for the roll itself. You can use that to approach Mishimas. As you can see, it's not just a side roll on its own, it kind of rolls towards your opponent as well. So at, let's say, range 3, you can kind of use that to get a bit closer towards your opponent to set up another move. Or if you want to utilize your while standing moves more easily, you could go for the roll and then go for while standing move. Or if you know that your opponent is very hesitant to press or very defensive, you can just go from for the tackle from there. Yeah, this one you're mainly going to use at the wall after certain wall combos, because the wall combos from Dragunovs tend to switch sides quite often. Yeah, from there you can go for the tackle. I just got an idea. I don't think it will work, but it could work. Yeah, no. Tried to cancel the tackle attempt there as well. Yeah, the stomp, if your opponent decides to stay on the ground or after the rage drive connects. The 10 hits we're gonna skip. Similar looking animation to down forward 3, but it's a bit different. The Oki situation kinda is the same, however, so it's while running 2 time. If the 2+4 grab connects, we push our opponent way too far, so we're out of while running 2 range if we were to go for it immediately. However, because we get quite the distance if they decide to hold back, or even if they stay there, if we time it properly, we can get the long slide for some free damage. Let's see. This one gives incredibly good Oki. If they try to get to use the get up kick, we get the launch for free. If they stand up, our launch is gonna whiff. Down 2 is probably the best option there. There might actually be able to get the launch off. Nope. Same situation. It's very weird. Alright. Let's see. Yeah, then we've got that grab. And basically the same, but with another input. So our opponent doesn't know if we go for the 1 or 2 version, so he does not know which break to go for. If you can time it, you can go for an instant while running 2. If you can't, simple mid check will do. I've just noticed that down forward 4 hasn't been mentioned at all in the move list. Down forward 4 is your fastest mid poke you have with Dragunov. It pushes your opponent quite far away. It's -9, but because of a pushback you can still go for movement. Most of the time I use that move to set up a quarter circle forward 1 or a quarter circle forward 2, depending on what I see my opponent whiffing with. Yeah. On hit it's +2, so you get up to 2 hits. After 2, the pushback is too great. So if your opponent tried to do something, you most likely both will whiff. This poke is highly steppable though, and it's pretty much doesn't matter which direction your opponent steps towards to. It's that steppable. Yeah, Blizzard Rush. The stomp can be blocked, but if they try to get up immediately, you get some free pressure. If you notice them staying on the ground, then you go for the stomp. The tackle we've talked about, the grabs we've talked about. Yeah, the crouch grab has the same animation as from the low cancels. Sets up instant while running 2 as well. The parry, it really depends on what you parry from your opponent. So if you parry a 1, you get a free launch attempt with the Oki situation if they try to get up immediately. If you parry the 2, you can set up an instant while running 2. If you parry lag, it's another Oki attempt, or while running 2. Depends on your preference, basically. Ah, damn. Yeah, and there it's risky to throw something out because your opponent is off axis and your next move might whiff. Yeah, and that grab gives you free Oki as well. So if they try to get up immediately, the down 4-2 becomes guaranteed. So we've covered that. So now to some wall stuff and then we're done.
Get ready for the next battle.
So at the wall combo wise, we got, I want to say 4 options. One would be back 2-1-3, and if they try to get up immediately, the back 1+2 will most likely clip them. And even if it doesn't and they manage to block it, you still get some pressure for free. The safest option you usually have is just back 2 and then while standing 1+2. Don't forget, back 2 moves you into crouch on its own. This most of the time switches sides, however, so this would be the one situation where you use this back turned down 3. Another option where you switch sides would be 3-1 into sneak and then the shoulder. That's another situation. If you just want to go for immediate pressure and think your opponent is gonna hold back, you go for 4-3 and can then go for back 1+2 for more pressure. Or if you think, alright, he's now familiar with the setup there or the pressure situation there and is gonna stay on the ground, that's when you're gonna wanna go for the stomp to make them stand up. Was there something else? Let me think. I think we pretty much covered it. Perhaps another thing that's quite interesting. 1-1-3 at the wall, incredibly good. If you delay the last hit, it will catch a lot of people. If you want to break your opponent through the wall and he is lying on the ground. Let's see. I think I need to set it up a bit differently. Showing that might turn out to prove might be a bit difficult. Yeah, that's gonna be tricky. It's possible to hit your opponent sometimes through the wall there. I'm not familiar with the specifics anymore, but there was a way. Anyways, if your opponent is at war... Oh my god, I'm confusing myself here. You can break him through with down 4-1-3 or the shoulder. Yeah. And everything that gives the ballerina stun and hit is a move you can use to wall splat your opponent as well. Yeah, and that pretty much covers Dragunov. That's as much as I know with the character for now. Should you have any questions or anything like that, should I stream... should you see me stream Tekken or stream something different, don't hesitate to ask me in chat. Or you can shoot me a direct message and I'm gonna try and explain to the best of my abilities. Alright, that's it from me for today and I will see you next time. Till then.